Hi, Redeemer. Welcome to this week's FAQ, coming to you from my in law's house in Ohio. We're out here for a little break, and then we'll be back. Looking forward to that. Today, I want to talk about the social justice gospel or the social gospel, and what is that? Uh, should the church be involved in social justice? So, let's clarify some things. Historically, in the 20th century, there was a movement among liberal churches that denied basically the supernatural, um, the inerrancy of Scripture, the existence of maybe the afterlife or miracles, and interpreted the Bible basically as just a social movement, a call to fix the social order here on earth. And as churches like that, gained prominence and worked out, what they perceived to be, biblical mandates in the social order, that began to be called the social gospel. And that's certainly something that at Redeemer, biblically, we would reject because we retain our belief in the supernatural, the belief that God exists, that there's an afterlife, that the scriptures are inerrant, that salvation is by grace through faith through Jesus Christ alone, and that all people's ultimate need is eternal and spiritual. Right, so we would reject that. But you can also fall off the horse on the other side when you say, well, people just need the gospel. They just need to hear the good news of Jesus Christ and be saved. And that is certainly true and of uttermost importance. Um, but the challenge is that the Bible, and if you just think about it logically, once people hear the gospel and believe and are born again, that leads to a change of mindset, affections, desires, and behaviors. And that can play out not just in individuals, but in structures like entire families or entire businesses or entire societies. As an example that I think most Christians, evangelicals, would affirm is that there are social injustices like abortion. Abortion is a social injustice. It is built into the system that we live in. It is legal. It is written into law to protect women's right to choose and abort their children. And that's a clear example of a social or systemic injustice that we believe as Christians we should um, push against and ultimately preach the gospel, right, such that people would be born again and and through the renewing of their mind and the renewing of their affections, not desire to abort their children, right? We would love to see that play out, in its most free way, which is through again people being born again and their desires being changed. But at the same time, there's room in our society and biblically for there to be law to restrain evil, right? So we as Christians need to really embrace both of these things. The fact that we want ultimately for people to know God and to be born again in the Spirit and to believe, but we also see that there's a place in society to be uh, seeking more just systems. And where it gets tricky is that really people can have really different ideas of what that might look like. If you tend to lean a little more left, you will lean more into governmental structures and maybe um, social nets, taxation, and that kind of thing. And if you lean more right, you may lean more toward leaning into the freedom of the markets and um, trusting that that will lead to the better society. Now we could debate about that, and we will and do. But the point is, uh, whichever side of the aisle you fall on, everyone's going to have their biases. The point is that as a Christian, you can't simply write off, the needs of society with people just need the gospel. Um, it's an oversimplification because the gospel leads to transformation of, individuals, families, systems, and that kind of thing. So hopefully that helps. It clarifies a little bit there. So yeah, at the end of the day, when you say does Redeemer believe in the social gospel or the social justice movement, well, it just depends on what you mean and how that plays out. So I'd love to discuss these things more with you. pay attention to our podcast, Fighting Words. That's where we tease out a little more of this stuff and discussion and things like that. So, anyways, look forward to being back with you guys soon. See you later.